Peter and I coordinated before we came to you today. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't speak to anything overlapping what Peter said. And I'm going to speak specifically to the nuances involved with the children's show. When I first became a member of Kirk Players 7 years ago, I was cast in a special production of a children's show called The Velveteen Rabbit. And at the time, Sheila Burke, a former president of Kirk Players, was stage managing for Patty Lynn. And I think she quickly put her laser beam on me as I gained notoriety as that person with a type A personality and the person who was also asking a bunch of questions. And she said, how would you feel about stage managing for the children's show? This coming from someone who had stage managed at least 18 children's shows, I believe. And I said, sure, because here was this person who's the god of stage managing children's shows asking me to stage manage. So everything I learned from her. In fact, she gave me her old book with her name in it when she retired from Kirk Players. Stage managing a Kirk Players children's production or any children's production involves a number of unique skills that are specific to children and their parents. Any theater should have a policy regarding working with children. Kirk Players has one and adopted their working with children policy last year in July of 2019. And it is an essential part of our children's shows as a stage manager or any adult involved in a children's show. Not only the stage manager, but I think it's important to go over this policy because oftentimes we hand it out to our members, we hand it out to our parents, and we expect them to read it, but we don't know that they do. And it's important. It's in place to provide safety for everyone involved. So I'm going to go over some of the points in that policy because I feel they're very important. A children is defined as anyone who is under 18 years old. And children have rights. They have a right to speak and be heard. They have a right to respect, to ask questions, to voice their concerns, and they have a right to feel and be safe. Safety is a very important issue. Early on in the production process, the rehearsal process, I feel it's important for the stage manager to communicate some of these points and not just hand out a handout to the parents at one of the early on parent meetings. Some of the safety policies Kirk Players has, and probably other theaters as well, is at the end of every event, a child must be picked up by a parent unless another arrangement has been made. It must be communicated to either the director, the stage manager, someone on the management team. This is very important because I can cite examples of where a parent has texted me wondering where their child is at the end of rehearsal because unbeknownst to them, their child went home with another parent or a friend. So it's very important that that point be communicated at the first read through so all adults and children know, as well as parents. Secondly, rehearsals for children's shows run a little differently. We don't go past 9:30. We do this for a number of reasons. One, for the health of our children who we don't want to be exhausted. Some of our kids' shows range from age 6 or 7, usually it's 8 now, to 17, and their school is a priority and we want them to get home at a decent hour. But secondly, the Village of Mundelein has curfew ordinances, which usually aren't a problem during rehearsal schedules, but could be a problem during week or performances. Right now, it's 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday until 6 a.m. of the following day, or 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. to the following day on the weekends. That is the law. So we have to be careful when we're at the theater during tech week not to run into those issues. Any emergency incident involving a child needs to be communicated to their parents immediately via text. I also suggest bringing a first aid kit to rehearsals because at times when I have stage managed, there have been children that have come up to me asking for a Band-Aid or they've hurt themselves. And I feel that it would be good to have for a stage manager. Children must stay in the rehearsal space at all times. If they enter another space, 2 adults must accompany them. No one adult should be alone with a child in a room during a production or an official event involving children. This point is there for their safety, and I think that historically things have happened and progressed, and it's just important for everyone's safety. Children, bathroom needs, phone calls, sickness, early pickup, late arrival need to be communicated with stage managers by the children and or parents. All of this information that I've shared so far needs to be communicated with the parents and children. You can't expect the children to communicate and pass along the information to the parents. Some of them are quite young. This is very important. As far as discipline goes during a children's show, there's a balance here, right? As stage manager, you want people to like you and be able to come to you with any questions or problems. And yet at times you do have to put the hammer down and tell the kids to be quiet during rehearsal. So our policy is that any disruptive or violent behavior will not be tolerated. And we are to demonstrate minimal tolerance regarding such behavior. And in cases of extreme behavior problems, parents may be asked to pick up their children if electronic devices or any other activity distracts a child or other children, or if any inappropriate behavior or distraction occurs more than twice, the parent will be notified and the child will be asked to keep their devices or activities at home. That is in Kirk Player's policy. And I know that you have the policy, but I think it's important at the beginning of every children's production to communicate that. Which leads me to organization and communication. Gretchen touched upon parent meetings, schedule the information nights, one early on to go over the policy and one for production manager information. Email, create distribution lists for the cast and one for the crew, and email the parents once a week with schedule changes and details. Only use text for urgent matters in a schedule change. I also recommend creating a Facebook group, but do not rely upon it as the end-all be-all for communication. A lot of people have Facebook, but a lot don't. So email will be your main form of communication. Our children productions have very large casts of upwards to 40 kids, 40 people, adults and children. The schedule is going to be difficult depending on your director. You may draft it, the director may want to draft it, but try to schedule different groups on different days so not all the young children need to attend every rehearsal early on, because it is really hard on those 8-year-olds. There are special events that you will have to take note and communicate to parents and work with the PR director or producer, such as publicity photos, preview performances, video, set, build, and strike. Children are not allowed to participate for safety reasons. However, there is a cast party at the end of set strike that you will have to organize and maintain somewhat. So those are just briefly the nuances of the kids shows. I think the children's policy we have is very important. I think it puts parents' minds at ease when you communicate these types of policies to them. And I think it's a delicate balance, but the rewards of stage managing a children's production are numerous. There may be more things you have to deal with, but it is just wonderful to inspire, to teach, and to see these kids grow. You have a very important role at hand.